Everybody, video here for you today. Now, I've talked about a lot of sites in Ohio, one yesterday. Here are some of the sites, and I still know I have some sites yet to enter on here. Some of these sites I talked about quite a while ago, the Cincinnati Earthworks, a few of these other places, but still have about a half a dozen still on my list from Ohio to go. And I've had a lot of comments on giant skeletons being found and that controversy. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about that today because I found a good ancient mound site. And then while looking around the other night, I found about three more connected to it, kind of. Well, why don't we go down to Knox County first of all? Fredericktown, Fredericktown is the name of the city. It's right down here. Some lost history we're going to talk about today, some mound sites that I just learned about recently. The mounds I'm going to show you today, I believe, originally were like this one in Miamisburg. These are Adena Mounds. They have a distinctive shape, and they go back maybe 3,000 years. They are the ones with the copper and the intricate artifacts, and some reports, very large skeletons. The first of these in Fredericktown I'm going to show you is called the Rowley Mound right down here. You can see the shape of it underneath the trees. This is one of these sites that is just kind of covered up today. I don't know how many people know about this site, but right down here, ancient mound that probably goes back about 3,000 years. Just not positive on that dating, but there is a Seventh-day Adventist church right here. That's common near a lot of these ancient sites. Next site in Fredericktown is called the Braddock Mound. It's right down here. You notice an elevation change. The mound is right here. Nice homes here, but then in the woods in the backyard, just kind of forgotten beneath the trees right here. The Braddock Mound, it's kind of up on a rise. It would have been seen from all around. And these other mound sites, you could probably view it from on top of this mound here. Next site, just to the south, Knox County. This is Mount Vernon down here. This is called the McLaughlin Mound. I don't know how many people are aware. There used to be a large Adena Mound right in the middle of the cemetery here. But I was looking at some historical pics, and I know I got the site right here based on this cement work right into the mound, and then this tower, or whatever this is right here. Here's what is remaining of the McLaughlin Mound today. You see the cement work built right into the mound here, graves right at the base. They lopped off the very top of this mound decades ago. This is all that's left today. Here's a pic from 1915. Appears that tower has been there for over 100 years. There is a structure built into the mound, and there is what it looked like over 100 years ago. The conical Adena Mound right in the middle of the cemetery here. You can really tell how much of this mound has been removed. See the top of the brick structure here and where the top of the mound is in current times, and then this is the way it looked way back when. In 1851, people started to be buried around here. In 1894, when a grave was being dug right in this area, they found a single burial, copper chest plate, copper bracelet, shell artifacts. Seemed to be a very important person. One burial. Today, surrounded by thousands. This cemetery it's massive. First thing here, large Adena Mound, built probably 3,000 years ago. The dating, not quite sure. Let's go a little farther south here. Let's go down to the very small town of Homer. Right down here, there was a story written in 1824. Large skeletons found right down here. But this town didn't seem to grow very much from the time it was first settled. Right down here on the west end of town, large Adena Mound right down here, still a little bit existing today. Not only a mound here, this is called the Dixon Mound. Still see it perfectly right there. But there was also an enclosure, a fort as it is described in the 1800s. And that is right here. You notice some elevation changes here, maybe a earthwork wall around that place. But that is a prehistoric village right there. Also reported right across the road here, the highway, whatever this is, there was a mound reported right off the cemetery here. Might be right down here. Now, one of the most common questions I get is, what about all these giant skeletons found in the mounds from state to state? And a lot of these stories match up. Were people sensationalizing in the 1800s, or were they writing the best description they could? Well, here, this is a story from earlier this spring. Tales of prehistoric giants lurk near Homer. I have talked about really large skeletons being found in the Ohio area before. The Seat Mounds, I believe the Dover Mound just over the Ohio River, a few other places here. But it says the ancient mound in Homer is a rare surviving relic of the mound builders' culture, which once flourished in central Ohio, leaving its wake of legends of giant skeletons found in mounds and temples excavated by early settlers who lacked the technology to preserve the giant bones. Here is an early map of Homer in 1854 with the landowners plotted out here. The gold star is a Dixon mound that I was just showing you. But a little over, maybe a mile to the west, the Fulton property, it had a large mound that enclosed a stone structure. That is what is described. And I guess we can only use our imaginations to try to figure out what was once there. Here's the area of the Fulton property in 1854. They said a farmhouse was built on the mound site. Not sure where this would be, but it said it enclosed a stone structure. I find that very fascinating. Not sure where this location is. I don't think we have a farmhouse from 1854 remaining, but it could be right down in this area right here. Just doing a little reading here. This article starts off talking about the Newark Earthworks and the dispute with the county. Then it goes into the site down in Homer. It says, according to the 1881 History of Licking County, in 1824, an excavation of a prehistoric fort on the river bank adjacent to the Homer Cemetery revealed a very large human skeleton. It is stated that the jawbone would go over the face of the largest man present, with two hands placed between. It says the cemetery sits on a bluff, which may have been the location of the fort described. Modern researchers would conclude that the earthwork was more likely a sacred temple, considering that such structures are sometimes found containing ritualistic artifacts, but rarely any evidence of battle. It says the history book adds that around 1931, a group of local men dug 15 feet down into the mound across the street, which is formerly known as the Dixon Mound, also known as the Williams Mound. But that is the mound I've been showing you in Homer. It says over 50 years later, in May 1885, the Newark Advocate reported on the discovery of two giant skeletons in Homer. A few days since, one of the residents of Homer, in passing through a field, accidentally saw human bones protruding from the earth in a side hill, which proved to be of gigantic size. Upon further excavation, two large skeletons were revealed, both large enough for the skulls to completely encase a modern adult male's head with room to spare. Seems they were retelling a story that was written maybe 50 years before here. It says a report in the New York Times, Dateline, Canterbury, says that the initial find was made by Homer schoolboys and that subsequent digging by adults turned up two more skeletons and numerous flint artifacts. The Times article states that three of the skeletons were measured in excess of 7 feet in height, while the largest was over 8 feet tall. A report from the McCook Weekly Tribune from a week later ups the total to 5 skeletons and adds that the skeletons were all found with their feet pointing towards the east on a stone platform 5 feet beneath the surface of the mound. Burned bone fragments, charcoal, drinking vessels, and flint weapons were found as well. The most striking articles besides the skeleton, the article continues, were a finely finished stone pipe, a bowl being large and polished and engraved with considerable care in a simple way. The figures are birds and beasts. A knife shaped like a sickle reversed and having a wooden handle held by leather thongs, and a kettle holding perhaps 6 quarts. Those were all found with the burials, and those are consistent with things found in Adena Mounds. The 1881 history also notes the presence of 3 mounds 1 mile west of Homer on the property of farmer Robert Fulton. The book says that one of these mounds was flattened to provide the site for a farmer's house, while the other 2 remained. One of those mounds was excavating, revealing a dome-shaped stone building about 10 feet in diameter and about 3 feet tall. Probably a burial chamber, but it says this seems reminiscent of other mound structures that have been identified as Adena mounds, dating as far back as 2500 BC. Speculation has run rampant over the years about large skeletons, which have been disregarded by official institutions such as the Smithsonian. Skeptics suggest that the reports were hoaxes spread by newspapers more interested in intriguing readers than checking facts. And that is the big question about all these articles written in the 1800s. How much of them supply facts? How much were sensationalized? But it's certainly interesting because a lot of them matched. Just going on here, it says, But the sheer scope of these reports through the 19th century makes it hard to believe it was nothing more than a hoax. Collectors of these reports have filled books, but the big problem is that none of these skeletons are known to still exist, because upon exposure to oxygen, it seems the ancient bones quickly deteriorated. Skeptics find that mighty convenient for the hoax explanation, but it is well enough documented that ancient buried bones do decay rapidly when exposed to humid conditions. It also says other skeptics have pointed out that ancient bones could well have become disarticulated, allowing space between the joints and giving a false impression of height. This does not, however, explain the large skulls described in these reports. This is the Knox pages. Here is Mark Sebastian Jordan, the guy who wrote it. I enjoyed this article. I enjoy sharing other people's work looking into this mound mystery. But he concludes it this way. He says he's not sure what to think. It says, one thing is certain, though. If there was a class of giants, Central Ohio was their sacred center. More mounds, earthworks, and reports of these finds come from here than anywhere else. This was once a spiritual center of an entire culture's world. When you pause at these sites and let your imagination picture it, you can feel the resonance that remains. Here's the way the mound looks today. Part of the top of this mound has just been lost to the hands of time. So the big question is, what was found down here in the early 1800s? Reports of big skeletons found. This prehistoric site here going back how many thousands of years? Well, I think that is a little bit up in the air too, but I find these stories very interesting. They are reported on from many different states. Large skeletons, one here, reported to be over 8 feet tall, some 7-footers. Do I believe it 100%? No. Do I dismiss it? No. That is ancient Ohio, full of ancient mysteries. Hope you thought that was cool. And you all have a very nice day.